Ladies and gentlemen, this is now time to consider an example of strategy as learning. And this example is about Honda, a case of strategy as learning. It is about entry and success of 50cc Honda motorbikes in American market in 1950s and 1960s. And this is considered to be a classic example of strategy as learning. To really understand this, I will have to tell you rather briefly the story that how Honda motorbikes entered into the American market and it became successful there. Not on the point they entered into the American market with, rather on the point which surprisingly emerged during their stay in American market. This actually happened in 1950s, late 1950s and 1960s. And this Honda case, I would like to tell you, has become the classic example of the strategy as learning. And it has not only become the classic example because it has also become the issue of great debate among the great scholars of strategy and strategic management of the era. Just to mention that in the debate, 4 great names mainly have participated: Ansoff, Gold, Mentzberg, Pascal, and many more. And this debate actually on the Honda's entry and success in the American market is now considered the key debate between 2 schools of thought of strategic management. The school of thought that believes that strategy is deliberate, and the school of thought which believes that strategy is not only deliberate, it can also be emergent. And there is also a room for learning. Let me tell you the story of Honda in American market briefly. 1950s is considered as the market for big motorbikes in America, in British, in other parts of the Europe. The motorbike in the West, especially in America and in Europe, was not considered as a transportation or medium of transportation for the layman. Rather, it was a lifestyle, it was a fashion, and it was only for a particular community or a segment. If we talk about America, the trend in was the motorbikes above 250cc, mean 300cc, 500cc or 600cc. The motorcycle to be driven by a specific class or segment by wearing the leather jackets. It was a totally different culture there. Honda, a renowned two-wheeler manufacturer in Japan, in 1950s, rather in 1959, entered in the American market with the hope that it would be able to find out some of share for its 250 or 350cc motorbike there, competing in American market with Harley Davidson. In the first year of its entry into the American market, and it is appropriate to mention that they had many budget constraints there. And they were so constrained in the budget there, the 3 executives who were managing the Honda's affairs in America used to sleep on the floor of their warehouse. They did not even have the luxury to have the separate accommodations. To cut the very long story short, in the first year, they could not get any success. the sale for their large motorbikes was almost discouraging there. And there were less chances of their success with their larger motorbikes. And they, though were producing the 50cc or smaller bikes in Japan, but that was not a culture in America. They were themselves using their 50cc bike for their own transportation there. Once they were using it, they got a call from someone inquiring about the 50cc motorbike. This was the very incidents they came to know about the interest of the people in the smaller bikes. That was rather a new experience in the American market. Then, coupled with it, a university graduate developed an advertisement for one of his course, and its tagline was, "You meet the nicest people on Honda." This ad was received by Honda. It was, after a debate, approved, and that became the landmark ad in the American market. And that was the accidental beginning of Honda's success of smaller motorbikes in the American market. Actually, when they entered into the American market, they had no intention to sell smaller bikes. The only intention was to market their larger bikes. What was their intention totally remained unrealized, totally failed. And what was not their intention emerged on the route. And the 50cc bike, which was not the part of the plan, it was accepted, and it became the most selling bike in the American market. What we can learn from Honda's example is this, that this is not always that your deliberate strategy succeeds. There is great possibility that accidentally on the route you learn, and that learning becomes a great strategy and performance for the organization. Actually, this Honda case was studied from different angles, and when it was studied from different angles, it became the issue of debate among different scholars. And resultantly, it is reported in the literature of strategic management as the classic case of strategy as learning. I hope that this particular point is clear to you all about that how strategy is learning, and it's the result of a learning process. Thank you very much.